Morning, Mado.
Good morning, Mr. Kos.
How is my sound?
It's okay. It's
Is it good or just okay? I don't know. Don't know
it's
it's second time.
your sound is never good. I think it's the device that you're using, but it's okay.
Let me try. I'll try to enter through my phone and see if it does not interfere with this connection. Then I can speak through the phone. Good morning, Madam Speaker.
Morning, guys. How are you? Masibu, i-joint rules.
Yes, ma'am.
Ngicela uba masonto bayishare. Ayishare.
Yeah.
Please, Tata Benchili Zolo, no? Okay. Because after this one, I have a doctor's appointment, okay?
All right.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thanks. Touch me.
Mado, is it okay now?
Much better. Thank you.
Okay, so I'll use the phone for voice and the
And then
other
for
for the
picture, you will use the other device. Okay,
Yes, thank you so much.
thanks.
Recording in progress. Recording stopped.
Masibulele. Thank you, sister.
Molo Speaker.
Morning.
Morning,
Morning.
Speaker.
Morning, Comrade Hope.
We-
Morning,
we-
Comrade.
Yeah, no. Settle.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Comrade Hope. Thanks. Morning, colleagues. It is now 8:30. and it is
Recording
time
in progress.
for us to start with our meeting. Colleagues, I welcome you all. Do we have any apologies?
Madam Speaker, the Chief Whip of the Majority Party had apologized. That's the only one that I have at the moment.
Okay. Any other apologies, colleagues? I see no hands. Thank you very much, Mr. Castle. So that is the only apology we have so far. Then, colleagues, shall we then proceed to consider the items on the agenda? There's a draft agenda. Colleagues, are we happy with the agenda? Or are there any matters you'd like to add on to the agenda? It seems there are none. I see no hands. Can somebody then move for the adoption of the agenda? Thanks, Honorable Deputy Chief Whip of the Majority Party.
Morning, Honorable Speaker, colleagues on the platform. I move that the agenda be adopted as is. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Chief Whip. Any seconders, colleagues? Seconders, please, so to proceed, honorable members. Honorable Gert.
I second the adoption of the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Gert. We then proceed, honorable members, to consider the minutes, the draft minutes of the 12th of September 2023. Okay, those are the minutes up on the screen, honorable members. Shall we then go through the minutes? Thank you, honorable members. Those were the minutes, honorable members. Those were the minutes. Is there anyone who would like to move for the adoption if we are happy with the minutes? Honorable Frolick.
Good morning, Honorable Speaker, and good morning, colleagues. Honorable Speaker, I move for the adoption of the minutes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Frolik. Any second, honorable members? Any second?
I
Honorable
second the
Jacob?
adoption of the, I second the adoption of the minutes as Speaker as a true reflection of what transpired in the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Jakude. Honorable members, we then proceed, having adopted the minutes. We will now consider the matters arising out of the minutes of the 12th of September. Will you please take us through, Mr. Castle?
Madam Speaker,
If there, sorry, there's a, yes, somebody was talking. Okay, proceed.
I think it's mine.
Proceed. Yes.
Madam Speaker, the main issues that arose or that arise from the minutes of the last meeting are canvassed in the report of the subcommittee on the review of the rules, and that will be found on page 4 of the minutes. And shortly we shall be dealing with that report. The rest of the matters really are issues that have since been implemented, including the issue of the Ministry on Electricity and where it was supposed to report, and that has been taken care of. There was also the issue of a rule on party funding that was implemented, and the rule was passed in the House. So, ma'am, we will deal with these issues when we get to the report of the subcommittee in a minute. Thank you.
Okay, then. Thank you very much, Mr. Kasu. Honorable members, we then invite Honorable Zakude to take us through the report of the subcommittee on review of the rules of the Assembly.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I will request that Mr. Tasso present the report of the subcommittee. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Tasso, will you please take us through?
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you to honorable members. Honorable members, the report dealt with, or the subcommittee dealt with 4 things in the main: improving of processing of public petitions, a model to follow up on government undertakings that are made on the floor of the House, to supplement the Money Bills and Related Matters Act with rules, and a system to monitor House resolutions. To start with, and of course, we also deal with the reflections of the committee on the matter of independence and what can be done to take care of that area of our work. In terms of the processing of petitions, Madam Speaker and honorable members, there are basically 3 things that have since occurred. We go to page 2. The first one is that the rule 347, we are proposing that that rule be amended. The amendment seems technical, but it's important, it's significant, because as members will be aware, petitions currently are only received from true members of parliament. And this rule is basically saying that members of petitions would come through members of parliament, but also members of the public could petition the National Assembly directly or lodge a petition. Currently, we do have a system for members of the public to express their views in parliament, but through what we refer to as unsolicited submissions. So we're saying that would now become petitions. The rules also require of the National Assembly to develop guidelines on petitions. We have not had those guidelines. So the subcommittee has developed those guidelines, which we will go through shortly. And the third thing that has happened is an effort at attempted integrating the petition system of Parliament, the NA and the NCOP. So we have a petitions framework that will serve before the Joint Rules Committee shortly. So that petitions framework will be considered by the Joint Rules Committee. And therefore, at this point, I would like to go through just the guidelines on petitions, and then we'll come back to the issue of government undertakings. If my colleagues could just go through those guidelines, and I will be brief when I deal with those guidelines. That will be Annex A. My apologies, Madam Speaker.
Will you please flight Annex A on the screen for those who do not have the document, honorable member? Annex A2, is that the one?
Yes, Madam Speaker.
Okay. Do we all
Colleagues,
have the documents? Then will you please
Yes.
take us through, honorable members?
Yes, ma'am. I think on Annex A2, I would just like to concentrate on substantive requirements with petitions. That a petition must request action where the House, government, or minister has authority to intervene. It must not be a matter that has been considered by the committee previously, except if that petition, in the opinion of the committee, contains new information that may materially impact on the outcome of reconsideration of the matter. It must not be in respect of a matter that a petitioner has not yet brought to the attention of a relevant body that would resolve the issue. It must not concern a matter pending in a court of law. It must not be in connection with the conviction or sentencing of a person by a criminal court. It must not seek to review or overturn the proceedings of judgment of a competent court. Should not deal with a matter that is already before the Assembly. That is, in essence, Madam Speaker, what the guidelines contain. And we think these guidelines are pretty constitutional, and also they should not be a hurdle for in terms of submitting petitions to the House. The next one that we would want to also highlight in terms of the framework. I'm not sure why my colleagues are not able to reflect these documents, but my apologies for that. They may be having difficulties. In respect of the framework on petitions, what we are basically saying there, we have presented this thing before the subcommittee, and we are also presenting it to the Joint Rules Committee. What we will now have is that a petition will serve before a committee for a period of 2 months. And of course, there are other time frames that are applicable to the administrative process. So that is what we are proposing in terms of the time frames for petitions, in terms of how they will serve before the Assembly. So that is what we're doing in terms of the framework, Madam Speaker. As I indicate, these matters have already served before the subcommittee, and the subcommittee is bringing them before this committee for approval. So that is the story on petitions. We will now proceed from petitions, because I'm working on the basis that the honorable members have gone through these documents. We'll now proceed from petitions and go to the second part of the report, which is the government assurances and undertakings. So if my colleagues could prompt.
Just there, Mr. Kaso, just the
Yes, ma'am.
honorable members, are we happy that the entire report should be presented, or should we deal with the first matter of the petitions and conclude with it and then proceed to the next item? Are we happy? Seems we are happy. I see no hands on the screen. Thank you, then you may proceed.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. If my colleagues were just to indulge me to go to page 2 of the main report, which is government assurances and undertakings. Madam Speaker and honorable members, the oversight model proposed that there ought to be a committee to pursue all assurances, undertakings, commitments by ministers from the floor of the House. These are statements that the executive would make, say, by a certain time, this will be done, and this is how it's going to be done. And the model is saying those matters must be followed up. And that was proposed in the oversight model. And therefore, we are proposing that this proposal be given effect to. There are two options that the committee has considered. The one option is that a dedicated committee be established to pursue these matters. And the other option is that because these matters would ordinarily and naturally relate to government portfolios, and we have portfolio committees that deal with those matters. And therefore, there may not be a need to establish a dedicated committee, but capacity must be created within the office of the Speaker. And of course, the Speaker would decide how that capacity ought to be created, of course, supported by the tables. For these commitments, to have a record of them and have them referred to the relevant committees and have a tracking system that is meant to track compliance and processing of these commitments by committees to the executive. So, Madam Speaker and honorable members, the subcommittee recommends firmly that at this point, there's no need to establish a committee, but at this point that the office of the Speaker, supported by, of course, the facets that are available in terms of capacity within that office and within the administration, to process this matter. And Madam Speaker, that is the recommendation. Madam Speaker may wish to solicit the views of the committee before we proceed to the next one.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Kaso. Honorable members, are there any comments on the proposal made? Honorable Lagude, followed by Honorable Kyanki.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I just want to indicate to this Rules Committee meeting that there was actually general agreement in the subcommittee with the proposals that Mr. Kaso has presented to this committee. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Kakude. That takes us forward. Honorable Kyanki.
No, thank you, Chair. No, I was rising to say that reflects our recommendation from the committee. In fact, there was consensus as opposed to general, Honorable Lagude. Thank you.
Okay then. Thank you very much, Honorable Kyanki. Honorable members, that's the report presented to us by the team, and they support the fact that the subcommittee did deal with the matter, and it is here now for your attention and approval. Will you then proceed, Mr. Kaso?
Madam Speaker, the next item is rules for money bills and related matters. Madam Speaker, in this regard, we will not go into the detail of what the rules provide, except to say that the rules are dealing, the effect of these rules, once they are agreed to, is that they will now enable the NA or Parliament broadly to actually amend a money bill. At this point, we have the power, or the House has the power to amend money bills, but the mechanisms are still lacking. They are not complete. And these rules are doing that, creating the mechanism, completing that mechanism to amend. We know that there's a budget office. We know that there are 4 committees that are dedicated to this matter. But in terms of the rule structure or infrastructure, there are still issues there. And therefore, these rules are seeking to create a consultative and coordination mechanism between the committees dealing with the budget. This will be our Appropriations Committee and the Finance Committees, for them to interact with other committees of Parliament. So these rules are creating that coordination and consultation processes. The rules are also creating a power or a function for the 4 committees to issue directives in terms of their interaction with the other committees. Now, these committees, Finance and Appropriations, are called standing committees. The reason they are called standing committees is because they are provided for in law. So they are in this Money Act. And therefore, these rules are seeking to give that ability to the committees to issue directives in terms of how other committees must interact with them when they process the budget through Parliament. Madam Speaker, the recommendation of the subcommittee is that these rules now need warrant further consultation, and therefore they must be sent to the committees dealing with the budget for further input, with the understanding that those committees are multi-party and all the parties are effectively represented. When I say effectively, I mean even those that are not there individually, there are whips that represent those parties. And therefore the recommendation is that these role players be asked to submit their comments before the expiry of this term. So we don't finalize this matter now, except to send it to those committees for them to give their inputs on the rules. That is the report on this matter, ma'am, before I proceed to maybe the second last aspect of the report.
Okay, before you do that, honorable members, is that agreed that these rules related to the money bills should be referred to the relevant portfolio committee, and that those committees should finalize this work before Parliament rises, as in end of term, so that by the time we come back, the matters have been dealt with effectively? Are there any hands? Comments, honorable members? Honorable Papo?
Speaker, is it not that they should be consulted and they come back? Because
Exactly.
my understanding was that they cannot be finalized by those portfolio committees. They must be finalized by the rules. So I just
Yes.
wanted clarity, because that was
Okay.
initially understanding in the subcommittee.
You are correct, comrades, Honorable Papo, that that kind of it's the consultation which then is being referred to honorable members, that we consult with those committees, and that those committees should refer this back to the Rules Committee so that the Rules Committee can take the process forward. Agreed, honorable members?
Agreed, Speaker.
Agreed, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much, honorable members. We then proceed, Mr. Castle, take us through the next. Yes?
Madam Speaker, the next item is basically for noting, because the Rules Committee has reflected on this matter. The Rules Committee dealt with this matter immediately after the State Capture report, when it served before this committee. One of the concerns expressed there was follow-up on resolutions of the House, and the Speaker, through the Rules Committee, put in place a mechanism for this follow-up and for tracking, a manual mechanism. And the subcommittee is basically saying that is acknowledging the existence of the current mechanism, and that we note it, and rules may be necessary in future, but this mechanism must be tested before we can get to the detail of having to establish rules. So that is the issue there, ma'am. And with your permission, I would like now to go to F, which is the impact of electoral reform on the rules.
Yes, proceed.
Madam Speaker, as members will be aware, we now have a possibility to have independence as part of the membership of the National Assembly. We have done, and I say we've done, the administration has done a preliminary assessment in terms of how we could adjust the rules to take care of that possibility. In its wisdom, the subcommittee is of the view that we allow the situation, when I say the situation, the current dispensation to unfold, and at the right time, when we get to the point where we need these rules, then we can always have either a motion in the House moved to take care of urgent matters at that time, and allow the Rules Committee of the 7th Parliament time to reflect on the issue and develop appropriate rules to provide for that situation when we get to it. So at this point, we are not proposing rules for the NA Rules Committee. We are asking the Rules Committee to note the matter, and that is an issue that the 7th Parliament will have to grapple with as soon as we come back after the elections. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Well, there it is, honorable members, the impact of electoral reforms. Honorable Dr. Connie Mulder.
Yes, Madam Speaker, I would support that. That is a very wise approach. The same approach should have been taken when it came to funding of political parties.
I hear you.
I think you sorry, Speaker. He's just throwing it in.
Honorable Kyanki, you are out of order. Honorable members, that's the proposal, honorable members, that this matter will be dealt with when we come back, really, if there is a need for us to develop rules, right? And Honorable Mulder, and I'm assuming Honorable Kyanki support that. We then proceed. I see no other hands on the screen, honorable members. We then proceed to the next item. Mr. Kaso.
Madam Speaker, on the next item, just before the next item, in order for us to have the quorum, two members will be co-opted, Honorable Papo and Honorable Kornev, so that they are part of the meeting. We know that at this point in time, in terms of the rules, they are in the meeting by virtue of their positions, but they will be co-opted to be part of this meeting. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm now ready to proceed to the next item, which is the physical removal of members from the chamber. I will be brief with this one, Madam Speaker. 3 members were removed from the chamber when we we had a physical sitting on 21 February 2024. Those were Honorable Mashabela and Honorable Aris and Honorable Sonti. Now, in terms of the rules, when members are physically removed, the matter must be referred to the subcommittee on the removal of members to look at the circumstances that led to the removal of the members and also how the removal was effected. In terms of that rule, the functions of that subcommittee are to do the following. The subcommittee must consider the circumstances of the physical removal of a member from the chamber as reported to it by the Speaker, taking into account all relevant aspects, including 1, the conduct of the member concerned, the ruling by the presiding officer, and the manner in which the member was removed. The subcommittee met and considered all these factors. They met on the 1st of March, considered all these factors, and the conclusion of the subcommittee in terms of page 3 on the findings. The committee agreed that the report of the presiding officer on the day was an accurate reflection of what had transpired in the House on 21 February. The subcommittee found that the conduct of the members who were physically removed from the chamber deserved such treatment by the presiding officer, as it allowed for order to be restored and for the continuation of proceedings. There was an issue about whether the doors of the House should have been opened while members were being removed. And the chair ruled at the time that there was no way that the order could not be maintained because we're voting. And therefore the rules must not be looked at in isolation, but must look at the full text of the rules and the context in which this matter occurred. So the subcommittee agreed with that approach, that the rules must be applied regardless. And there was also a view that the matter of Rule 112, which talks of the closing of the doors, could be referred to the subcommittee on the review of rules to look whether there is a need for it to be explicit in terms of circumstances under which the doors could be opened while voting is ongoing. But the committee wanted us to emphasize that the proceedings of that day were conducted within the rules, and the chairperson was correct in his ruling on the matter, and the doors had to be opened for the order in the House to be maintained and to be restored. Madam Speaker, that is a report of the subcommittee on the matter. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very. I'm sorry. Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Kaso. Honorable members, are there any comments on this matter? Honorable Dr. Lutriet.
Thank you, Speaker, and good morning. I think whilst it is maybe the finding that the presiding officer's behavior was correct, I do think that it is important that we do look at the rules to make provision for such instances, especially where we have this kind of voting as we had in the City Hall, given the context and the people, or I mean, it was for the removal of judges. So we must be absolutely sure so that it cannot be challenged in a court later on. So I would strongly propose that we have a look at the rule. What happens if the doors have closed and there is a disruption? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Dr. Lutriet. Honorable Korenhoff, followed by Honorable Dr. Ndlozi.
Thank you, Speaker and colleagues on the platform. I read through the report and I want formally to propose this as a true reflection of the report of the subcommittee, and I formally propose that we accept this report and approve it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I should have addressed you as such. I should have said Honorable Dr. Korenhoff, like I have done to the other members. I'm sorry about that. Honorable Dr. Ndlozi.
Thank you, Speaker. In light of this recent proposal, please just note the objection of the EFF will reserve our deliberations at the correct time. Thank you.
Honorable Dr. Ndlozi, you are saying one, you are reserving your inputs for now, and then you will express your views at the right time. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, Speaker, but we object that the presiding officer acted within the rules. Please note the objection of the EFF that this committee should adopt the report as it is. Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much, Honorable Dr. Ndlozi. Honorable Lisuma.
Good morning, Honorable Speaker and colleagues on the platform. I just wanted to confirm and agree with Dr. Korenhoff, but safe to say as well with Dr. Lotri, because what Mr. Kaso has presented, it does say that then the rules in the immediate future must look at the conditions and the circumstances and be explicit when the voting takes place and there's a chaos in the House. And I think it's appropriately well recorded, Chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Lisuma. Right, honorable members, are there any further comments on this particular matter? None.
We're covered by the doctors, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kubudile. Thank you very much, honorable members. Now, honorable members, shall we then proceed, Mr. Kaso?
Madam Speaker, the next item is a report of the report to the Rules Committee on the study tour to the UK House of Commons. Honourable Frolick is on the platform, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Frolick. Honourable Mr. Kaso. Now, honourable members, it seems to me We're done with all the proposals from the Rules Review Committee, subcommittee. And what we are about to receive now is a report on the study tour. Of course, a study tour which was meant for us to conduct comparative studies on what it is that we can do best to improve our situation here in our parliament. So we are now proceeding to that report. If there are no other comments in the report which has been presented by Mr. Klasso, so that we don't have to go back to all of these issues. Are we happy, honorable members? Should we proceed to deal with the report of the study tour?
Yes, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable Jakude. Mr. Klasso, I invite you then to present the report.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Honorable Frolick was a leader, and he's
sorry,
ready to.
Honorable
Thank you.
Akbare Frolick, will you please take
Good
us
morning. Good morning, Honorable Speaker, and also good morning to the honorable members who are on the platform. May I indicate, Speaker, that the study tour that took place was initiated on the 25th of April when the Rules Committee agreed that there should be a delegation of members to undertake a study tour to our colleagues in comparative parliaments, and specifically to look at the issue of how the Prime Minister in this instance of the United Kingdom, that is in the Commons, is being held accountable. And it flowed from a discussion on the oversight mechanisms on the presidency here in our own country. And indeed, the study tour took place from 16 to 20 July 2023. And it was a multi-party delegation, ably supported by support staff from the NA table. There was also included the Budget Office, the Director of the Budget Office, and a number of other officials. We engaged with political representatives and experts from Westminster and independent institutions in order to establish, amongst other things, the following: the general procedures and conventions relating to the oversight members' mandate of the House of Commons, and the accounting responsibilities of the Prime Minister as the head of government, the procedures and structures employed to oversee the Prime Minister and the administration of his office, and details of the structures employed within Westminster and other institutions to scrutinize the Prime Minister and his office. That was the primary focus. And of course, we interacted on matters of the budget and met with the relevant officers. Also, we met with the Procedures Committee and also received a briefing on Select Committee in the House of Commons and how they exercise oversight. The means and officers employed to facilitate liaison between Parliament and the Executive, and the mandate and role of the Environment Audit Committee in terms of climate change. Without going into much detail, Honourable Speaker, I want to go directly to the committee that was mentioned before we left, that there is a committee in the House of Commons that oversee or exercise oversight over the Prime Minister. Briefed by the chairperson of the Liaison Committee, Sir Jenkin, as well as the clerk of the committee. And what we found very interesting was how this role of the committee evolved. The Prime Minister essentially appears in Parliament when they are in session, the Commons, to answer questions once a week. And it's a very short period of time that he has, and doesn't really go into substantive matters. And the need was identified by the Liaison Committee. The Liaison Committee consists of chairpersons of committees. And of course, in the system, in the Westminster system, in the House of Commons, you have a cross-party representation in terms of chairpersons of these different committees. They indicate beforehand, and at first it was just administrative issues. And then it's evolved where the Prime Minister invited to come and deal with specific issues that's on the agenda and in the national interest. And those issues identified, Prime Minister gets briefed before the time, and then he attends the Liaison Committee. And at the moment, they have over 30 members present. Financial oversight is done, and the Minister in the Cabinet Office And what we noticed was how the Westminster system in the House of Commons, they customize their own approach as to how they do oversight. In terms of the outcomes, Honorable Speaker, and also the recommendations that we are making towards the end of the report, there's a number of observations which spells out how the two systems in the UK Parliament and in the South African Parliament essentially differ with one another, and also how financial scrutiny is exercised. And we observe that some of the procedures that are in place in the UK Parliament, in the South African Parliament, we have in many respects more comprehensive procedures and standards concerning oversight and executive accountability. We are thus recommending, Honourable Speaker, honourable members, that while the South African Parliament already have these comprehensive procedures to facilitate oversight and accountability, there remain features of the rules and practices that could be enriched, and that the National Assembly should remain proactive and open to reforms to support our systems and practices that is quite unique to our constitutional democracy and the existing practices in Parliament. And that in the case of the oversight of the Presidency, the Portfolio Committee on Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation, or its equivalent in the 7th Parliament, be mandated to scrutinize the budget and the spending patterns in the vote on the Presidency. And I must acknowledge the support from all the members of the delegation, as well as the support staff and our colleagues in the Parliament of Westminster who made this visit worthwhile. Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker, and I table this report to the Rules Committee for adoption. Thank you.
Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, there's a hand.
Honorable Singh, can you hear me?
Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Singh. Thank you.
No, thank you very much indeed, and thank you for the report being presented by Honourable Frolick and to all the staff that contributed to the drafting of the report. I have to agree that we certainly have to be proactive in the 7th Parliament in terms of formulating rules to strengthen oversight. But what we learned in the UK, really confirmed the point that there has to be oversight. But the format of the oversight is something that we'll have to continually look at. So I would agree with the recommendations contained in the report and appreciate the opportunity for having gone to the UK to study their systems. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Singh. Honorable Papo.
I confirm that what Mr. Frolick has presented, a number of our areas of oversight are quite advanced than their systems, as you can read, and background information if you read. Sometimes we underestimate and undermine how far we've gone as a country in relation to oversight. UK being a first world country, I think they can also do a tour to us, some other countries, to learn a thing or two. But the commitment that we should strengthen our oversight model, it's very, very important. It's just that there was a consensus of many of us, we agreed that some of their systems is what was done in the first or second term of our National Assembly.
Okay, then. Thank you very much, Honorable Papo. Any other hands, honorable members? None. It would seem there's agreement across the board, honorable members, that indeed the trip to the UK was a success. However, in your view, and experience it seems to us here in South Africa, we do have a system which is quite advanced as well, and people can learn a thing or two. Now, the proposal made by Honorable Singh and of course by Honorable Frolick, Honorable Singh was supporting Honorable Frolick, is that of course the South African Parliament in the 7th administration must be proactive. There are things which we can do even better. So it would seem to me that brings us to the end of this particular report, because there is a clear proposal that we note the report of the study tour, and having noted the report of the study tour, observations have been made comparing the two, the House of Commons and our parliament here, and we agree that on the 7th, during the 7th Parliament, there are certain things that we would need to do better and be more and be proactive. Is that the correct conclusion, honorable members? Okay, if there are no hands, then I assume that that is the correct conclusion of the matter. I thank you, honorable members. Is there any other matter now, Honorable Mr. Kaso?
Madam Speaker, not on the agenda strictly, except to say that once the committees on finance and appropriations have consulted on these matters, the matter will come back to this rules committee for it to go to the House. So it means that we may still have another meeting before the end of April, perhaps, to consider that matter. For now, ma'am, the agenda, we have concluded the agenda. The only announcement is that at 10 o'clock, the Joint Rules Committee is meeting. And we invite members to please attend the meeting so that we could have a quorum for that meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we have also agreed that honorable, when we do not have a quorum such as what we had earlier on, that both Honorable Papo and Honorable Korenov form part of the committee in order for us to secure the quorum that we need.
Certainly.
Thank you very much. Honorable members, I thank you. It was a good meeting. Thank you. The next meeting now will be at 10 o'clock, which will be the Joint Rules Committee. Thank you very much, honorable members. Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you.